Chairman, I would like to introduce Michael Sanderson.
I do apologise. I'm mindful that time is creeping on, but like many people in the room, I've come a long way. Just a couple of comments to start with. The pillar of our economy are producers of real things, not banks. Banks are mere facilitators through the prudent lending. The issue of redress, Rita made a comment. Most of the issues with banks, in my opinion, and I think it's borne out by other sources, is at the point of something happening, whether it be right or wrong, the weaker individual, which is generally the customer, does not have access to the same facilities as the stronger party. There is no equality of arms. And as Rita quite rightly points out, they don't know the real issues of their case and therefore cannot defend them at the time. The gentleman over there talking about branches closing in the bush. There's an ex-cocky that was done over by a bank, not your bank, the one that's loved. It's perceived by the general public that the curse of the bush are fire, flood and drought, which is probably quite timely. I can tell you there's 3 other things that are worse than fire, flood and drought. That is bankers, lawyers and politicians. Regarding future board members, I would suggest you consider some heterodox economists. And if you want some advice on who to appoint, I can refer you to a Warren Mosler. He builds motor cars. He's got a huge intellect. He's only got one fault. He's an ex-banker. To my point, anyway, this is the bit I'm going to read. Despite over 50 inquiries in the last decade, including a Royal Commission, the incidents of bank naughtiness keep emerging. Only yesterday, more naughtiness by the bank or by NAB was reported. Over the passage of time, the Hayne Royal Commission is being seen as predicted by victims, by the victim community, as a Clayton's version and not fit for purpose. To illustrate my point, I can say categorically that not one dead person made a submission, yet they had significant exposure. In contrast, over 10,000 submissions were made by live persons, yet there were only 27 case studies. It was publicly stated that Hayne would be given more time and latitude. All he had to do was ask. Hayne, for some reason, never asked, and an opportunity was lost. The public and the economy, since the final report, has been exposed to many issues contained in those hidden submissions. Because of Hayne's failure, the financial sector and its henchmen are being exposed to a death by 1,000 cuts. What is criminal is that individuals, SMEs and farmers, done over by bankers and their henchmen, there are still no meaningful, timely redress mechanisms. Hayne has let them down big time. My question is, in hindsight, does the NAB, in conjunction with the other big 4, regret instructing the Turnbull-Morrison government to run a Clayton's Royal Commission rather than the proposed parliamentary inquiry, which would be more wide-ranging? I refer to Ken Henry's comments.
I take your point. I think that if there were any hindsight applied here, it would be that when calling for the Royal Commission, and I know the motivation that the banks had in seeking this the sense was that the public clamour for a Royal Commission was so strong that had it not been addressed, it would have carried on for a long time. Now, I don't think that in hindsight any of us feel that would have been any different. So as confronting as the Royal Commission was, and as damaging as it's been, including to this organisation, I think Australian society is still better off for having been held.
I'm not saying that what Hayne found was wrong. I'm commenting on the fact that it wasn't long enough.
Yes,
there was not enough resources, and there are a lot of submissions that made relevant points that should have been addressed. I'll leave it at that.
Leave it at that. Because I think you were about to say that a parliamentary commission might have been better, but actually I think a parliamentary committee would have struggled to have had the edge that the Hayne Royal Commission had.